What's going on? I'm Rory from Saint Sinner, and I'm talking about our new EP, Identity Crisis, that came out in, I think, last month at some stage. And yeah, super keen to be talking about it.
Beautiful, Rory. Thanks for joining us again, bro. Always a pleasure chatting.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
My pleasure, bro. So, as you mentioned, Sinner released your latest EP, Identity Crisis, back in July. So, how's the
It
early
did.
reception been for it?
Well, it's done a lot better than I thought it would. We've had because whenever you release music, and especially when you're such a competitive market, you're always like, oh, no one's going to listen to it. And then within the first couple of weeks, we'd had people that had sort of heard the singles and recognized that we've been building up to something a little bit bigger, responding, going, oh my God, like all of this makes sense, like the colors you were using and the art that you were putting out, and like it all kind of makes sense now, which is sick. Like that's really cool to even get like two people being like, I've been following that and it makes sense now. Has been really good. But funnily enough, our biggest response has actually been from Japan. With like a bunch of people, just obviously because we use like an online PR agency called Noise Riot, which is Sean from the band Heists, and
Okay.
he like advertises our stuff through TikTok, through Instagram ads, that kind of stuff. Um, and the biggest response we've gotten has been from people in Japan. They've been just like sharing it to their stories and being like, this is sick, which is awesome. Like that's kind of strangely sick. Like didn't expect that. But yeah, early response has been really good. We've had, I think it did what it needed to do. Like it's sort of just, this one is just sort of a knock on the door for us. And sort of introducing a few more of the ideas in our story and stuff pretty early on. So yeah, pretty happy with it. Very happy with it.
Great. So, tell us a bit more about the EP from a musical point of view, bro, and what you were going
Mm.
for with it.
So we have always been like, we started the band like Saints in its first iteration was 2020, and it was like a five-piece rock and roll band that was like, I use the word dated, but it we just, I didn't 100% know who I wanted to be as a musician, as an artist. And I think what the identity crisis is for me was this sort of rebranding and rebirth of what Saint Sinner is, and embracing that idea of like, well, I don't just have to be one thing. Like we don't just have to be like a metalcore band. We don't just have to be a rock band. I don't think we ever wanted to be a rock and roll band, really, but we went down that path. But yeah, the whole idea of duality and accepting duality and accepting like the different aspects that inspire you has been what this band has always been about. Like that's been sort of the one thing. So musically, we just wanted to sort of see how many different things that we could do on one record before it started to fall apart. And I really think we set out to achieve something very different, and I think we did. I think we achieved some different things all on the one record.
Cool. So,
Um, yeah,
for those who haven't heard the EP yet or haven't heard of it, we're going to ram it down their throat right now, bro, because
yeah,
EPs are great because there's only a limited amount of tracks on them. So you got eight
yeah,
songs on Identity Crisis, mate. So we'll run through them all individually, and then you
yeah.
tell us a bit more about them because, like you say, there is a bit of a spread, I guess, some genres covered in there.
There
So
is,
each song
there
needs its
is.
own attention. So
It does,
we'll
it
start
does.
with the first track, Identity Crisis, the intro track.
Yeah. So that we have this, I guess it's probably pertinent to sort of preface this whole conversation that we're like, one of the big decisions that we decided to take early on was to tell a story with all of our releases going forward. Like a story that lives beneath the surface of what is like presented. Um, as just the music. And because we looked at all the big bands and the ones that were doing really well, like Bring Me the Horizon, Sleep Token, Slipknot, Bad Omens, all of them, 21 Pilots. And we went, well, they all tell a story outside of the sonics of whatever their music is. And so the identity crisis for us was an opportunity to go, okay, how can we tell our create a narrative without ramming it down people's throats? So the people that want to go a bit deeper and get a bit more into it, which is a lot of people now, funnily enough, can do that. And I've always been that way. Like if a band releases any kind of lore, I'm all in. Like I am sold. I don't even care if the story is tragic. Like I don't care. I'll sell my soul for a little bit of extra things. So Identity Crisis, the first track was in between every song. When we released the singles, we did this little like hype video thing, which is supposed to tell parts of the story. And that sets up this universe of myself as a character being kind of trapped in this weird limbo state, this sort of fractured state of mind, and dealing with a bunch of, I guess, like it parallels real life, like dealing with a bunch of unresolved traumas and a bunch of sort of edgy, dark, emo things like that. And yeah, so that opening, we call it a stem because it's what we walk out to on stage now. But that opening stem was very much that. It's sort of just this eerie setting the scene, trying to give people this sense of unease pretty early on. Because it's literally just me with a little mic against my computer, like the voice detuned and some fucking creepy ass splice samples. And yeah, we just wanted to do something that had set the tone a little bit.
Wait, then it goes into Devil Boy. Don't tell us that one's
Yeah.
about you, bro.
Well, so Devil Boy is it is and it isn't. It's interesting. So that song's the oldest song that on the record in terms of the demo. So I've had that since the band started in 2020, but it was this weird electronic dance music thing. And I was like, now that we're getting heavier, and that's the direction we want to go in, let's make it a fucking like metal EDM dance breakdown track thing. And that story wise is literally kind of personification of the main character. The title doesn't really make sense. We just thought it sounded sweet. We were just like, oh, it's a cool title. It sounds cool. Doesn't really like not once in the song does it say the words Devil Boy. It used to, but we kind of cut that because it was this weird voice thing. But yeah, for that one, we just wanted to see how far we could push this like metalcore thing into the realm of like electronica and having just a bunch of split up things. In a way, that track kind of like foreshadows different elements of the rest of the EP. There's like the electronic section, there's the fucking breakdown section, there's the slam section, there's the singing section, there's like a little bit of like, like the production value in there as well. And in the story, that's kind of it's telling the narrative, or I guess kind of setting up the narrative of where I am, where I actually come into it post, I guess, being in that place of limbo, and what's going on outside of my head a little bit. Because funnily enough, we didn't think this through. Whenever you do lore that is in any way story driven involved with a fucking music release, it makes everything 50 times harder. Because you have to go, oh shit, does this make sense? Have we fucked ourselves with continuity? And then we have. So yeah, if you listen to it in order, it doesn't make sense until you listen to the whole record, I guess, which is another reason to make people do it. But yeah, so that's Devil Boy. It's kind of this, it's more character focused lore wise, and then very much foreshadowing sonically what the rest of the record's going to do.
Like already, bro, it sounds like a therapy session would be a lot easier.
It would be easier. It's just more expensive at the moment. Like we could be out $30,000, or I could be out like a lifetime of debt. I just chose the lesser of two evils.
Very cool. All right, we'll move on to Head Case.
Yeah. So that first single, obviously, we like that song was done in September, I think, of last year. So it's been out. This whole record's been out for a year. Like finished for a year, sorry, and like I'll touch on that a bit later, but because of the new stuff. But because this record's been done for so long, it feels weird to be like, oh shit, that was like over a year ago. And I guess Headcase is within the story, not to ram it down people's throats, sort of tell it to them straight, but essentially, I've been abducted by a company that takes your trauma and turns it into narcotics and sells it as like beauty products. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit like Apple being like, here's a thing, here's some stuff, this will make you happy. This little thing right here, if you give us money, life is sorted, mate. And so it's kind of a comment on that. and how I think a lot of social media and stuff is like a dopamine thief, and how it uses people's fucky brains to like make money. And which is super deep, I know. But Headcase is kind of the first, in inverted commas, test in the story. And it's about this sense of like self-hatred and rage and being angry at yourself for being whatever, and the labels that we have for ourselves. And that kind of went down this rocky metalcore rock route, which kind of set the tone because it was the first song we finished with Daniel Antics in Kernel. Shout out to Daniel, amazing producer, such a good boy. That kind of went like, obviously where Devil Boy was foreshadowing what was going on in the record, this was very much the like, okay, this is like the rockier one with a breakdown in it, but you can kind of like, you know, get into it as opposed to most metal where it's like, okay, I'm gonna punch people. This one's more like I'm gonna like bang my head a little bit, I guess. And it was a great opportunity for me to, as a designer outside of this, which is my other job, it was a great opportunity for me to come up with some cool ideas to support the law around costuming and that kind of stuff. Like, so we had the balaclavas to sort of signify that we were a bit like outside of ourselves as these characters, or that we were like set in a different mental setting, because like the mask covers up that identity. So yeah, that was kind of like the one that we went big on, the first single. We kind of went all in on that one. That was like literally a year ago next week. That came out, which is mad to think about now. But yeah, so that's Headcase.
Wait, and then you got Villain.
Villain. So that's Daniel's favorite song. I I got really drunk one time, so I I got out of a really toxic relationship. This was a few years ago now, and I got super drunk in my house and wrote this weird demo, and it was like a rap song. And I was like, I'm not Eminem, I'm not a rapper, but I got super fucking messed up and wrote this song, and then sent it to the chat, and the guys were like, this is actually kind of cool, bit goofy, but it's kind of cool. And then I showed it to Daniel alongside Headcase, and he was like, this is the track, bro, this is the one. Which was odd. And we kind of took it down this sort of alternative rock, like very dry, like room drums. I don't know if that makes sense, but very like not super massive drums, very processed sounding drums, and kind of adding metal elements in the guitars and in the bass and stuff to this like rap song. And genre wise, we were just like, fuck it, this sticks out like a sore thumb on this record, but it shows that we can be a bit diverse and we can do some interesting shit. And yeah, law wise, it's like another test, but this one they're testing a drug that makes you makes you grumpy. It's basically the resentment drug. So I guess the comment is, I at the time was feeling very spiteful, and I was like, well, what if instead of using spite to, you know, go and do the positive thing, I feel like this company would use it as like a negative thing. I feel like these, which is in line with what I think a lot of big pharma does, is using people's resentment to make more money. But yeah, it's the spite drug test. And the color was purple because I thought that was pretty sick. And yeah, like very odd song, Villain. It's got this weird, it's a rap song with a breakdown at the end for no reason. We were like, how can we fuck this up? Breakdown at the end. And the drummer was like, no, don't do it. And then he left the studio to go to the bathroom, and he came back and we put a breakdown in it. And he was like, no. But yeah, we did it. So,
awesome.
rap song with a breakdown.
Rap song with a breakdown. And the next one is your first collaboration on the album. And I can't really read my writing, but I'm hoping it says Dysphoria.
It does say Dysphoria. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
See that one.
So the green one, funnily enough, so second single, we had David from Belhaven on that one, who's an absolute legend. He's an amazing person, amazing, super talented musician, very giving guy. And we'd seen Belhaven a few times, and I was just blown away by his talent. And I was like, surely he'd never get on a song with us because being from Canberra, there's not a lot of opportunities. So you got to kind of get out. And I think we've done that, but hit him up and I was like, do you want to be on this song? And we only had the chorus at that point. So I was like, do you want to be on this song? Here's literally 5 seconds of it. And he was like, yeah, dude, absolutely. That fucking bangs. Let's go. And then we had to write the rest of the song because we were like, fuck, now we need the rest of the song.
We gotta give him something.
Yeah. And we wrote that in like 2 or 3 hours in my garage, in a Logic session. Sam, my guitarist, fucking gun on guitar and just songwriting wise, like in terms of his ability to create music, he's incredible. And so yeah, I did the lyrics and we kind of just banged it out. And funnily enough, the song that took us the shortest amount of time to write is our biggest. It's like our biggest track. It's done nearly 200,000 streams on its own, which is for us a big deal. And it's like, yeah, it went mad. Like Spotify algorithm went, you know what? I'll have some of that.
I like that one.
Like that one. The rest of your shit can fuck off. But that one,
that one can stay.
That one can stay because it's green and Spotify is green, or that's my theory anyway, because we used green in the title. But yeah, so Dysphoria is about just that. Like I kind of feeling really uncomfortable in your own skin and feeling kind of like this inward sense of numbness or dread or whatever. And the video, we went to this 3D animator called Hollowed Graphics, who's done videos for all sorts of people. Awesome dude, Irish fella. And we hit him up and he was super keen. He did this video that kind of shows another one of the inverted commas tests that gets done on the subject, which extracts that feeling of like being uncomfortable in your skin and leaves you as this empty vessel. Which is a comment, I guess. Dysphoria was a comment on like, you feel super messed up, and then you go get help, and sometimes it leaves you feeling worse because you then have to go back to square one. And yeah, it was, again, that's probably the most straightforward metalcore track on the record, because it's like singing verse, singing chorus, blast beat breakdown, and feature from another like similar artist. So that's probably the most cut and clean, like simplistic metalcore song that we've got. But banging riff, like I didn't write it. If I'd have written it, I'd be like, that riff is terrible. But Sam wrote that riff and I was like, bro, that's so good. And we kind of had a bit of a moment where it was like, yeah, dude. So yeah, that's Dysphoria, the green one. That's our biggest single so far, which has been awesome. Really cool.
Now, before we go further, mate, you mentioned colours a couple of times. You associated purple with villain, and you've got green with Dysphoria. So what's the go with that?
So I'm by trade, like I'm a graphic designer. So a lot of what I do is going like, okay, what's going to make audiences? Because let's be honest, most of the people consuming music now don't actually like remember the names of songs, me included. I go like, what the fuck? Who did that? I sometimes know the artist, but if like it all sounds the same, I'm not going to know the song name and I'm not going to be bothered to go look for it, because unless I'm, really motivated that day. But so I was like, well, with the singles, what's a way that we can make people from a marketing perspective go, oh, I know that one. It was the blue one. And then they'll like look through our discography and go, there's blue. I liked that one. So I just associated all of the singles and all of the different tests or like chapters within the identity crisis with a color. Because maybe it's a little thing in my brain where I like to have everything organized in color. But you should see the Logic projects. They are colored. But yeah, I really like that imagery that is combined with the story, that you can sort of see, all right, this part of the identity crisis was orange for, I think Lost It might be the next one or something. And then green for Dysphoria. And then you can really dive into the photo shoots and the aesthetic you have behind each single. You can go down a colored route and it gives you more of a vibe for that single. So purple was the vibe for villain. I was feeling purple. Green was definitely the vibe for Dysphoria because it was like this acid green thing. Yeah. And then blue was head case. Black was heroin, or like gray and black. Lost It was orange, and Devil Boy was like another shade of blue. I think. That's good. I can remember that, can I? And then Blood was red. But like, it just helped. Like,
Yeah.
I love having a colorway for things, you know. I love because you can create merch with it. You can create assets for social media with it. People go, oh, it looks cohesive, kind of looks like the rainbow if you scroll down our Instagram, which is cool. So yeah, we will always use colors and different to differentiate our eras, which is a pretty common thing for us.
Very cool. All right, well, we shall move on to the next track on the EP, which is Lost It, the orange one.
Yeah, the orange one. So our old stuff, the everything pre-September last year, the color for the band was orange. This is my favorite color. And I had like Lost It felt like the most similar track to that.
Okay.
It was this weird like punky rock thing. And Lost It's kind of more of it's very much like an homage to what we used to be doing, but with better production and a better direction on it, and a bit more of a MyChem sort of throwback, which is cool. And yeah, so that one's about a drug that we called frenzoline. And what frenzoline does is it's like ecstasy if ecstasy was on crack. And so and you know, I've got my own history with using some naughty things, and I kind of wanted to write about that and how I would feel in that sort of elevated state. And then like reflecting on it afterwards and being like, I actually don't know where my brain is right now. And so Lost It was about that, and I kind of just did this animated lyric video because we couldn't afford another music video by that point because we're severely in debt. But yeah, it's yeah. So we did Lost It as like this weird animated video to show what happens when the company successfully gets a drug out into the world. What happens? And it ends with like the video ends with like 3 teenagers overdosing on it and dying, which is not good. Don't do drugs. Stay in school. But
or do drugs when you're staying in school.
That's what I did. The best of both worlds. Let's go. But yeah, so frenzoline was sort of the topic of that song, and kind of what it would look like if one of those big pharmaceutical companies released a lifestyle product that was for raving. And it was like, what would actually happen if that was a thing? How would people feel? How would they take it? Would it be like vaping? Would it be like kind of under the table, or would it be like, okay, let's tax this and make money off it, kind of thing? And yeah, just like more like a riot. That song is very like the party song, I guess. And yeah, a lot of fun to play live. We probably don't play it as much as we should, but it's a lot of fun to play live. Yeah, kind of like a My Chemical Romance cross Fall Out Boy cross Bring Me the Horizon's newer stuff kind of vibe for that one.
Very cool. Well, speaking of drugs, the next track is Heroin, which features Heist.
Yeah. So Kris Zagas from Heists is on that one. He's a real G. We love Kris. Funny story with that song though. There are no funny stories about heroin except for this one.
Except for this one.
So I was like, I've got my own history of doing some naughty stuff, and this song's probably like in terms of the content, just like the heaviest. And it is also the new metal core, very heavy, very like, shit, we about to punch some people in the face type of song. And initially we had this song written, and Jack Bergen from Void of Vision, who I love, like if he ever watches this, which he probably won't, but if anybody who knows him watches it, I love him. I want to like be his friend. I idolize that man more than like anybody ever. And he is from my favorite band, Void of Vision. And he messaged us on Instagram being like, hey, I think actually no, I did the classic, hey man, you want to hear my demo? And like sent him Headcase, and he was like, this is really good. And I was like, what the fuck, this is crazy. Freaked the fuck out. And then was like, would you want to get on a song? And he was like, yeah, let's throw some ideas together. Freaked out even more, just died. And then we wrote Heroin for that. Like I had the idea for it and had the lyrical content. And then he got really famous and also had a massive health thing going on at the time, and he kind of dropped off the face of the planet for a minute, which is fair enough. He was dealing with some awful, awful things. And I'm very proud of him for getting through that. But then we were like, okay, so he can't do it. And he's also on tour in America. He's like, yeah, too big for us. And then we have our friend Carl in Ocean Sleeper was going to do it. Then he couldn't do it because they got really famous. Then we had a guy from a band called Dead Echo in the States, and he couldn't do it because he had like a family crisis when we tried to record it. And that, so we're like, this song is fucking cursed, right? It's cursed. And then we met Sean. Actually, no, we met Guy, who's the guitarist of Heist. He does most of our photography, and he did the headcase video. And I was like, we kind of got real close with them. And I said to Kris, hey, like, I love your music. Your voice is sick. Do you want to jump on this track? You'll probably die if you do, though, because it's cursed. And he did it, and he's still alive. So we won there. And those boys are awesome. Yeah, those boys are awesome. And heroin is basically the final test, and it's extracting the addiction gene, because there's a lot of interesting research into how addiction and into how that stuff is passed down. What's the word? Like hereditary.
Yeah.
And how you get past this box of like genetic disorder that you can't do anything about, and if you poke the bear, it gets proper bad. And yeah, so I was inspired by a lot of stuff, mainly Saw, the film Saw, and just wrote like super gory, super abrasive lyrics, which is not something I'm used to doing. And then yeah, we did this track. Sam and Caleb, the drummer, again came in massive and made it sick, and Dan made it sound awesome. And Kris jumped on it, and yeah, we shot the video ourselves. Went to Bunnings, bought like 1,000 sheets of plastic, and I swam about in some goo and sprawled about on the ground like a dying fish. It was good.
Lovely.
It was good.
It was good. All right. The EP finishes up with Blood.
Yeah, Blood's. It's interesting because it was originally Heroin was gonna be last, but Blood is this completely different heavy, but completely different heavy. So we were like, I want to do the sad song, like the song that you have a bit of a cry to and whatever. And I'd had the lyrics for like 5 or 6 years, but it had always never known where to put them, like on whatever song to put them on. And then on the last record we released before we kind of rebranded, there was a song called Faking, and that inspired me to do. I was like, oh, we kind of did it, but it didn't get made the way that I kind of wanted it to. Like I felt like I'd missed the mark with it. And so Blood was like, okay, I'm gonna get that one back and make it this big moment to end the EP. And so it was like an acoustic guitar, some sad lyrics, and like a massive chorus. And yeah, that kind of it's the not to get super heavy on Ye Olde Interview, but like it's pretty like the content of it's pretty messed up. Like it's a very heavy song, very personal song, probably the most vulnerable songwriting that I've done. And yeah, within the space of the law, it's kind of this space just before the subject dies, I guess, in that weird like limbo space of like, they say when you like before you die, your life flashes and you get like 4 minutes of brain activity or whatever it is, and you sort of see different parts of your life. It's kind of that feeling made into a song, and then it kind of climaxes with this ending bit and a message. And so yeah, that is within the realm of like the subject has been tested onto the point where they're in this weird, again, it started in this limbo state. They went through all this like traumatic stuff, and then they're back in that limbo state. And yeah, it kind of finishes the EP on this very like this weird moment where you don't necessarily feel good. You feel terrible because that's depressing as shit. But it's like, oh, that was nice. Now what? You kind of, have you ever seen a movie and you leave the cinema and you just feel a bit weird? You're just like, yep, I'm uncomfortable all the time. I got that seeing The Hunger Games, the first one, and I was like, very small when I saw it. Well, I wasn't, but I was mentally small. And it just made me feel weird. And so I was like, fuck it. I want to do a song that makes you feel weird when you finish the EP, like walking out of the cinema. And the video we did for it is like this lyric video, but it like rolls like credits. And it was just supposed to finalize the EP and leave people feeling a bit like, you know, at the end of a record where there's breakdowns and shit. So, yeah. And obviously blood is red because
I was going to ask that question, but it seemed a little too obvious.
Yeah, you have to. Funnily enough, though, the video is set in like a burning car, so it's like maybe the red is fire. No, it's blood. It's blood red because it has to be. As it has to be. Yeah.
Very good. Yes. Well, that's really, really good explanation, man. I'm going to go back and listen to it again now with all that in mind, and I think it's give it extra layers. You probably
I hope so.
Lost down a rabbit hole, bro. I'll never come out.
I hope so. Well, that's the idea, right? If you have a little bit of, no one has that much time, but if you have the time to go, oh my God, I need to figure this out, you can kind of go down and look at the symbolism and look at stuff and go, oh, what's this mean? And yeah, because we're not done with the story either. We've got other things that are happening now, which is fun. Very fun.
Very good, brother. Well, what else you got coming up, bro? You got any shows coming up that anyone can catch yet?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. So we're playing in Sydney. Well, actually, when does this come out? Because I don't know when.
I'm going to publish it today, brother. I'm going to get it because since it took me so long to talk to you, I'm going to make sure I get the interview out quick.
You're a gem. Thank you so much. So okay, this Friday we're in Wollongong. Next Saturday we're in Sydney. So this Friday we're at the Side Door Theatre in Wollongong. Next Saturday there's the Good Intent Saturdays thing that they do at the Lansdowne. We're headlining the event there. And then after that we have, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it because it hasn't technically been announced yet, but there is a series of shows that are happening along the country. And then the next one that's been announced is we're playing with Wild Heart and Vilify on the 9th of November at the Burdekin in Sydney. But there will be other stuff between the Sydney show that we've announced, and then there is a big bunch of stuff. So hopefully that doesn't get me in trouble.
Beautiful. All right, Roy. Well, thanks for your time, bro. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks, man.
Identity Crisis is out now. Sounds like
it is.
A fucking cracker. It is a cracker to listen to, but also sounds like a cracker when you know what's going on, bro. So best of luck with everything, and we'll catch up soon.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
See you soon, my man.
See you soon, buddy.